or we could kick rocks. And we decided to kick rocks. If you're trying to do something where the technology itself is the product, then I think you need an in-house development team.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their expertise, delve into the latest tech trends, and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov, and today I'm excited to have Noah Greenberg, co-founder and CEO of Staker. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new episodes. Hi Noah, and thanks for joining me today.
Hey, great to be here.
Let's start our podcast with a little blitz. I start a sentence and you continue.
All right, let's do it.
Entrepreneurship gave me
freedom to work on what I wanted.
Entrepreneurship deprived me.
I reject the premise of the question.
My main superpower is
customer development and sales.
My main weakness is
team management.
When I'm afraid, I
take a run.
Let's go back to your college days. How did running the Santa Barbara Media Group during university shape your early understanding in business and media?
Yeah, let's go way back. So in college, I went to UC Santa Barbara out in Santa Barbara, California. And there was a really unique organization there called the Santa Barbara Media Group that had been founded a couple years prior to my attending school by some students. And essentially it was a media agency, an advertising agency that had the sole right to advertise for local businesses on campus. And so we kind of had this edge where we could go to local businesses and say, the only way you can advertise on campus is by working with our media group. And in college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in business. And the Santa Barbara Media Group afforded me an opportunity to kind of dip my toes. So I joined, and my senior year, I headed up that organization. It was an incredible opportunity to just kind of work in the real world in a space where, sure, I had not created that business, but you got to own each campaign. You know, it was completely on you to figure out how to sell businesses that might want to advertise with us and then come up with those and campaigns, execute on them and report back on them. So just a really amazing opportunity to kind of full end to end what it was like to work with an enterprise.
What inspired you to co-found Staker? Was there a specific moment or gap in the market that you create the company?
You know, we founded Stacker, it's 8 years ago this August. And 8 years ago, if you had told me what we would be doing today, you know, there's been a lot of dips and dives and dashes and pivots. But I think what, you know, myself and my three co-founders, what initially inspired us to found Stacker was a mixture of one part seeing an opportunity and one part wanting to work for ourselves. Myself and my three co-founders had all worked together at another startup called Graphic. That startup was acquired by Amazon and essentially told us that our jobs no longer existed and we could move to Seattle and try and find other jobs at Amazon, or we could kick rocks. And we decided to kick rocks. And so after looking at potential jobs for a month or two, I decided I would like to start a business. I'd always known that I was entrepreneurial and wanted to start something. And I think the really founding thesis of Stacker was seeing that there are a lot of organizations producing content that are looking for more distribution. And there's a lot of news outlets that are looking for more third-party content. And although there have been many iterations of Stacker to get to where we are today, that was really kind of the insight we saw was, can we connect those two parties?
I have recorded more than 150 podcasts as of today, and your story is very familiar to me. I have heard it many times, similar stories. What were the biggest technical challenges in building a platform that caters to both publishers and brands?
The biggest technical challenges the biggest challenges for us in building a platform are probably different than some of the other folks you bring on this podcast in that they were not strictly technical. I think, the hardest part in building out a platform or a marketplace is the chicken and egg problem. It is, how do you seed one side? How do you build up critical mass on each side of the marketplace? And so, the technology that we have built is not cutting edge to the point of, our product and engineering team have done incredible work, but we didn't build ChatGPT. And I think the real hurdles for us have been, how do you build a marketplace from the ground up and build trust with two different audiences that are interacting with each other?
What's the most challenging part of being a CEO that people often underestimate?
I can give you a few. Most challenging parts of being a CEO, I think, are one that it never turns off. Whether it's, oh my goodness, there's this massive opportunity that we need to tackle now, or it's gone, or that there's fires to put out, or right when everything seems like it's running smoothly, there's a people problem that needs to be put out. There's just always something. And the job of CEO is a 24/7, 365 job. I think the second is probably getting your company out there, that being CEO is not just strategy, but it is PR and sales. Whether you're hiring, whether you're actually doing sales, whether you're getting PR for the company, that, whether or not you like it, you are in some ways the face of the company, and storytelling is a huge part of the job.
Agree. One of my favorite questions, I would say, that I ask entrepreneurs: are there any key lessons that you have learned that you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. How many do you want? One of the
most important ones.
Invest in ops. I think, as a small company, you often think, okay, we just got to do this ourselves. And it's pretty easy to lose sight of the fact that you and other employees at the company are probably working on a lot of things that they're not very good at. And it took me too long to realize, I as CEO am working on a lot of stuff that I am C grade at best at, and other people should I should hire or delegate these projects to someone else. That's something that I wish that I realized early on, for sure.
The rise of generative AI for content creation is a hot topic, obviously. How do you see the balance shifting between human-generated and AI-generated content in the industry?
The industry is obviously a broad term. I'll speak specifically to the industry I operate in, which is brand content. The space I operate in is seeing that hundreds and hundreds of brands are increasingly investing in content, thought leadership, other forms of editorial as a way of building brand authority. And to be honest, I think that's going to be one of the last places that AI-generated content touches. The reason for that is that the economics for producing content and looking for ROI from that content is very different than traditional media. So some of the companies that have been caught up in the past couple of years for auto-generating a lot of content that has errors, you think about like Sports Illustrated kind of had a really bad PR fiasco last year. I think CNET gotten some hot water, as well as, some other big names that I won't name. Those organizations essentially have business models where for every piece of content that they produce, they have to make more money than that cost. And that quickly incentivizes you to figure out how to bring the cost of a piece of content down. Whereas if you are HubSpot investing in a big study about how sales teams operate today, you don't necessarily need to make as much money as that piece costs, because that content is long-term building brand authority so that someday someone, when they want a CRM, thinks of HubSpot. So the economics are just a bit different. And so actually the space I operate in, I don't see brands leveraging AI to auto-produce content. I think, when you take a step back, the industry as a whole, do I think people are going to start using AI more and more for marketing copy, website copy, unfortunately sending their emails? Yes. But I think as a whole, the folks who are growing up in an age where you can just say, hey, ChatGPT, please respond to this email for me, are wholly screwed.
Absolutely. What's your take on the ethical challenges of using AI-generated content in journalism?
The ethical take, I'll start by saying that I did not attend journalism school. I don't purport to be a journalist, and I've never taken a journalistic ethics class. So I answer these questions as a consumer of news and nothing more. With that said, do I think it's ethical to use ChatGPT or other LLMs to write content and then publish it on your publication? I think that's fine. I think that it needs to be fact-checked probably twice as much as if a human were reading it. And I think it needs to be made clear to the reader where and how AI was used to generate the content.
Looking ahead, what AI-driven innovations do you think will have the biggest impact on the media industry over the course of next few years?
I mean, the most obvious one is just how people are consuming content, right? So you've got a lot of hype right now around what is increasingly being called GEO, or generative engine optimization, which is replacing SEO, or at least becoming a corollary to SEO. So the most obvious thing is just ChatGPT is going to change where people consume content and how they consume content. And that is a really quickly shifting playing field for publishers, right? And I think there's 100 ways that you could skin the cat. You see publishers like the New York Times cutting deals with some LLMs to license their content. You see others kind of throwing up walls and saying, you have to come to us to get this content. But I think that's the most obvious place that there's going to be a lot of shifts and a lot of kind of just change in landscape. I think the other is going to be in how individual publications themselves leverage AI to allow consumers to interact with their content, right? So can I have a conversation with an article? If I subscribe to The Atlantic, can I, without reading the article, just ask for a summary of that article, et cetera, et cetera? Can I go to The Atlantic and say, show me the 7 places this topic has been referenced? So I think that some publications are going to have an opportunity to really differentiate there.
Are there any specific regions or countries that you find particularly promising for tech talent?
I don't feel confident speaking to that, candidly. Our team is US based. I know that there's a lot of companies that are doing great work in helping connect talent in other countries to US based companies, or companies based anywhere, but I wouldn't say we've experimented enough for me to have a strong opinion on that.
What are your thoughts on the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, tech outsourcing, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we have just kind of as background, we've got a 4-person product team, but a fully outsourced development team. So we've worked with the same outsourced development team for almost 4 years now, if not more, and they've been incredible. What are the upsides? Flexibility, right? We can scale up, we can scale down without having to let go of full-time employees. Being able to contract for certain types of work. So, when you're not at a size where you need a full-time front-end designer, if you're working with an agency or a firm externally, you just tell them you need front-end work and they figure out, either they have someone on staff or they go find a contractor to outsource it to. But full-time, being able to get specialized work without having a massive team is a huge upside. What are downsides? Obviously, not having the team work in-house, it's hard culturally. The outsourced team, no matter how hard you try, is always going to be one step behind in terms of overarching company strategy. And you don't have a team on the engineering side that is sleeping, eating, and breathing your company mission.
As you've mentioned, you have been working with your current existing dev partner for several years. What do you think has made that partnership work well?
That's a great question. So in unranked order, I think that our SVP of product, Ken Romano, has done a great job of making them feel as if they are part of the team. So we sit down with our engineering firm twice a year in person and essentially do almost as if we were having an offsite for our engineering team, where we fill them in on, here's what company strategy is, here's the goals of the company, and then here's the things we want to build. But I think by filling them in on some of the background context, it's enabled that engineering firm to see where the puck is going and be able to make suggestions of, well, if you're saying you want to end up over here, maybe we should build this foundation over here first, etc. That's the biggest.
What advice would you give to founders that think whether to outsource development or hire in-house? What are the biggest trade-offs to consider?
A big one is just how much does your technology feel like the groundwork of what you're building? So again, if I were building something where what we were trying to build had never been technologically invented before, and that could be the next LLM, but it could be Shazam, right? If I were building Shazam and I don't know how I'm trying to do this, but I'd like to be able to listen to a song and have my phone tell me what it is. If you're trying to do something where the technology itself is the product, then I think you need an in-house development team. If you are building a marketplace and you need a really strong platform to service that marketplace, then I think you can probably at least exist with an outsourced development team for a while. Let's say that you're building Airbnb. I think that it would be fine from day one. I think that it would be fine for the first few years to outsource the development of your platform. I think over time, Airbnb, a company like Airbnb would want to build out an in-house team and be able to control all the features and work faster and, at a larger scale. But I think the biggest question I would ask is how kind of central to what we are building is nailing the technology piece.
Noah, thanks for your time. Interesting conversation, interesting experience. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
If you enjoy our discussion and want to stay updated on future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss out on the latest insights and conversations from the Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in the next episode.